watching the numbers go up, and we'll see when the numbers start to stabilize, when we'll actually be able to get started. I think that may be pretty much it. Welcome everyone to the Wilmette Institute's first web talk for August of 2020. Today we have a very unusual presentation. We have 16 people presenting, which I think may be a record for us, though perhaps it's a record we will break at some point soon. We will see. The topic of today's presentation is online learning for constructive engagement. This was a presentation that Nikki Daniels, the registrar of the Wilmette Institute, Chitra Golestani, the associate director of the Wilmette Institute, and myself, director of the Wilmette Institute, put together for the Association for Bahá'í Studies for their annual meeting, which of course just ended online earlier in this month. We did not actually have a live presentation as part of ABS. They gave us what they call a poster session, which means our slideshow is up. And today we are going to develop that slideshow into a program which we think you will, I hope you will very much enjoy, a program which will talk about how the pedagogy of the Wilmette Institute has been transformative for people and how they've been able to use it in various ways for social action and public discourse. We have here a quick summary of the content of this particular presentation. We have been working very much on trying to encourage people to contribute to social action and public discourse now for probably 10 to 15 years, really quite a long time. Before the terms even existed, of course, as goals, we were trying to help people take their courses and apply them to the community around them. And this, of course, involves both spiritual principles and academic knowledge, marrying the two together to produce a deeper, richer understanding of the world around you and of its problems and the ways the revelation of Baha'u'llah relates to those particular problems. Today, we will particularly look at the effects of 3 courses: anti-Black racism in the United States, climate change, and sustainable development. Those particular courses. And we've been able, in many cases, to nurture quite a bit of constructive engagement in those particular courses. We could have the next slide. We should probably begin by getting some sense of what the Wilmette Institute is. We're, of course, an agency of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, founded in 1995, so we're now 25 years old. And this is our mission statement: a higher education institution offering courses in Baha'i history, texts, and the Baha'i approach to social transformation. We're committed to a diverse academic community in our student body and faculty. Our courses facilitate consultation and reflection, personal and collective transformation for the common good. We seek to provide innovative and transformative learning experiences for university students and others who want to make the world more compassionate, just, and inclusive. And I think today you will see some of the examples of exactly that effort. And I will now turn it over to Nikki, who will continue elaborating on what the Wilmette Institute has been doing.
Okay. So over the past several months, Rob, Chitra, and I have been working on the guiding principles. We've always had guiding principles, but we have been working on updating them, and these are now on our website. And these are the main things that we want to animate everything that we do. And the first thing, of course, is that we believe as Baha'is that universal peace and justice can and will be realized. And the way that is realized is through a global consciousness of the oneness of humanity, which is a main teaching of Baha'u'llah, and also of the interconnectedness of the earth and all its inhabitants. Very important to me as well, because I'm one of the persons who has a blessing of teaching the science, religion, and the Baha'i faith course, is that both science and religion are essential to building an ever-advancing civilization. Also, that systemic social problems require a holistic approach to discover lasting solutions, and that scholarship does not begin and end with words, but combines theory and praxis in study, consultation, action, and reflection. And we're really happy and pleased that there are many students that we have who have been doing this study, consultation, action, and reflection, either on their own or even with their spouse or family or in a larger study group. And there's so many of them that we weren't able to invite everyone, but I'm really happy that we have people from the climate change course and the racism course who are going to be talking to us about their own experience, because that's it in the end. It's what the students are doing that we really want to showcase today. So this is where the Wilmette Institute comes in developing human capacity, the human capacity of everyone, not only in our Baha'i communities, but also non-Baha'is. People who are not Baha'is are welcome to join our courses. And we want everyone to become protagonists of their own material and spiritual development. So those are our guiding principles. I think Chitra was going to do this one.
Yes. So we have also been working on the Wilmette Institute desired learning outcomes. And while every course is not, we can't focus on the same learning outcomes, generally doesn't apply to every course. We do have some basic concepts such as increasing knowledge, abilities, and application of what is learned in each course. So for knowledge, we focus on, demonstrating knowledge and interdisciplinary insights gained from the course. For abilities, to analyze complex and interrelated local and global problems through critical systems thinking. To explore the intricate connections between spiritual and material solutions to social issues through research, praxis, and the arts. And of course, a major part is to engage in public discourse and social action in interfaith and intercultural context. And then the application is applying the knowledge, the spiritual principles, and the insights and skills to one's reality, community building efforts, participatory social action, and social discourse. And of course, again, with that goal of balancing the spiritual and material. Next slide, please. So looking at the theoretical framework for our courses, a lot of it for the university level ones at this time, it's rooted in critical pedagogy. And for those who are familiar with this, it's rooted in critical theory. Critical pedagogy distinguishes between traditional educational structures that would be kind of vertical, top down, you feed the students what they're supposed to learn. It distinguishes that from liberatory pedagogy, which is more horizontal, where there's dialogical learning and it's dynamic. And so the goal of critical pedagogy is emancipation from oppression through an awakening of critical consciousness. So the word that's there is Portuguese. I won't even attempt to say it correctly. But that's when someone, is awakened to the world and is not just reading to learn and understand the word just to gain knowledge, but is reading the world critically so that awareness can enable the person to have the will to transform it. So that in a nutshell is critical pedagogy. And then global citizenship education is another big influence, I think. The definition from the Council for Global Citizenship Education is the following. Global citizenship education is a transformative, lifelong pursuit that involves both curricular learning and practical experience to shape a mindset to care for humanity and the planet, and to equip individuals with global competence to undertake responsible actions aimed at forging more just, peaceful, secure, sustainable, tolerant, and inclusive societies. So of course, this is part and parcel of what we strive for, but how are these theories, these educational theories applied? So the Wilmette Institute is learning a lot about, how creating personal learning plans can help participants actually be able to assess their own learning, to guide themselves through what they set out to do, and then revisit that at the end. So faculty, advise students in the way that they can apply their learning locally and help them develop those lines of action. And then there are other things that are done as well. There's a student satisfaction survey and course evaluation that takes place. And then even 3 months after, several months after, the Wilmette Institute surveys and reaches out, contacts the students to see how their application of learning has been in their individual lives and their community building efforts. And then some of those stories are then shared, on our website and in the e-newsletter. So we're now going to explore what some of those accounts are, and I have the pleasure to introduce our wonderful instructor, Miss Christine Mueller, who will tell us about what that kind of work looks like.
Thank you very much, Chitra. The climate change course is designed to provide clarity to the very complex issue of climate change and to empower the participants for meaningful action and service. The course begins with a basic introduction into the causes and impacts of climate change. Being informed about the facts is a prerequisite for any meaningful action. However, it is well known that knowledge about facts does not necessarily change an individual's behavior. Spiritual teachings are essential because they affect the heart. The course discusses how we can apply the spiritual and ethical teachings of the world's religions to climate change. One participant wrote, "I have taken environmental classes before, but it just ended with knowledge and did not stir any ethical feelings for me or lead me to a path of service. This Wilmette Institute course did." The third major topic in the course is practical action. We study what actions we need to take as a society and discuss what we can do as individuals and as faith communities. Almost all participants report a profound change in the way they perceive the world and life. Many participants have made lasting changes to their lifestyles and have engaged in various ways in public discourse and social action. Some have participated in interfaith climate actions or joined environmental organizations. Some have incorporated their new knowledge in their professions as teachers, artists, and journalists. Many have applied their insights in devotional gatherings, talks, and elevated conversations. One of the participants that has excelled in action after the course is Sue Blythe, who will tell you now about her activities.
Well, hello. I wonder if we could, there it is. I just wanted to say what a gift it was to take this course in 2013 with Christine Mueller. And the thing that really impressed, well, there were two things that really impressed me. One was the interfaith, the spiritual foundation of this course that just tapped me into a relationship with the people in my own community who are working from different faith backgrounds to address climate and environmental issues in many different ways. The other was learning about the climate denial, and that in 2013 was brand new to me. I did not know that was going on, and as the daughter of an oil man, I took it very personally that I had a lot of catching up to do to make up for the problems that were happening in terms of fossil fuels in the environment. So I took the course with 4 other Baha'is. It was the first time that I'd done a study group, and we received the materials individually and then got together on the weekend to discuss them together. And it was such an in-depth experience that when it came time to say, what are we going to do now that we know, what do we do about it? our group decided to form an interfaith climate group and reach out to other organizations in our community to find out what they were doing. And our first effort was a panel discussion. And that was so successful that we decided to carry on. We did did movie nights and collaborated with churches and other faith groups to put on quite a series that lasted about 4 years. And so I continued growing in this through statewide and international networks. And then just recently decided that we are going to revive our interfaith climate group or working with the University of Florida and We the World in a pilot project, and wanted to include the youth. So I reached out to our Bahá'í Association at the University of Florida, and I met my dear friend, Mateen Kashef.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mateen. Like Sue mentioned, she reached out to me to begin this interfaith and intergenerational climate conversation with youth and elders of people from a variety of religious traditions. I had always had a real interest in climate change. My 11th grade teacher, Mrs. Romaine in high school, she really kind of opened me up and kind of taught me what even climate change was. But I never really went further into it. It was actually Sue who suggested I take the climate change course that Christine mentioned. And I took it in April and May. And that's where I actually met Mrs. Christine as a mentor. And she's been awesome and really, really helpful in helping me kind of use this information and bring it into the world. And so that's where I really enjoyed the Wilmette Institute bringing in me and helping me out. Sue had organized with Wilmette Institute our WI webinar, which was an intergenerational climate conversation, and that was held on April 26th. And we also had a friend of the faith join as well as a panelist. It was a great opportunity to cross what we learned in the Wilmette Institute course into systematic action to discuss climate change in an interfaith and intergenerational setting. With my own reflections and in discussions with Sue and her help, I was encouraged to write an article that was published in a Wilmette Institute on their. It was sent out on the newsletters. It also went in the International Environmental Forum, which is a Baha'i-inspired organization for environment and sustainability, and it was published on BahaiTeachings.org with various edits. Sue and I are still collaborating and seeking ways that youth and elders can collaborate in the journey to justice for the environment. We have another webinar coming up in September 2020 on Wilmette Institute, and we're continuing our efforts from both an interfaith and a youth and elder aspect. Now, especially, we're focusing on lifting the voices of those who have creative solutions in a variety of landscapes to help eliminate climate change. And I'm excited to learn more and see what else the Wilmette Institute has to offer on a great variety of topics, but also climate change. Thanks.
Good morning,
And now,
everyone.
Yes.
The Wilmette Institute launched the Anti-Black Racism course in 2018. It has been offered twice a year with approximately 50 to 60 students per course offering. This year, 2020, the course is being offered 3 times with over 100 participants in each course and another 100 people on the waiting list. Faculty and teaching assistants for the course are drawn from Baha'is at universities, from the community, and from previous course participants. The course is regularly updated and is supported by weekly Zoom meetings consisting of the class and instructors. To date, it is the most requested Wilmette Institute course. One of the primary goals of the course is to help participants learn to practice applying Bahá'í teachings on the eradication of racism to everyday life. I emphasize practice because we know that merely saying we believe something does not make it so. Baha'u'llah tells us, let deeds, not words, be your adorning. Finally, my involvement in the course has helped me understand the importance of our coming together to discuss difficult issues and to learn to seek spiritual solutions to what appears to be intractable problems of racism and prejudice within and outside of the faith. We cannot all agree all of the time, nor should we, but we have the power of consultation to guide us. And as an example of one of the many wonderful projects that has grown out of the Wilmette Institute course, Janae Brode will talk about one of those projects.
Good morning. Thank you, Gwen. I'm a member of Baha'is for Race Unity. Our group started doing programming around race and racism in January 2020. This was also around the time of the first offering of the Anti-Black Racism course. The core members of our group all registered for the course. We had asked our spiritual assemblies to support our efforts, the efforts of the Baha'is for Race Unity, by providing scholarships for up to 15 participants to take the course. Thus far, the local spiritual assembly of Marana, which was the first to step up, sponsored a group of about 14 people. The second LSA that stepped up was the Tucson LSA. And we now have a third, North Pima, who will step up to sponsor another group. What was really great about this was that all of the folks who took the course, particularly the core of Baha'is for Race Unity, was able to take that knowledge and use it to help elevate the conversations and the discourse that we were having around race and racism in our bi-monthly programs. The current as well as the past members have also started some of their own individual initiatives. Let me introduce now Michael Parker and Sarah Taraz, who will tell you more about Baha'is for Race Unity and the programming and activities that we're doing. Michael?
Good afternoon. We began an effort to have some type of program in the Arizona, this cluster area for race unity. And as it will, everything converged seemingly all at once. And we, as Janae said, signed up for the Anti-Black Racism course. And in that course, we were able to learn more about how we can present these sessions for our community. So the sessions are video discussion on by persons who are, so we start with race amity and the other tradition. And we show that video and we have discussions. Then we move into positionality, which we picked up from the Anti-Black Racism course and instituted that into the program. And then we go through Birth of a White Nation by Jacqueline Batalora, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Joy DeGruy, and Centering the Pupil of the Eye by Derek Smith. Those are the 6 sessions that we do every 2 weeks. Last night, we did finish up with Joy DeGruy, and we had about 50 participants, and it lasted about 3 hours. So with all the discussion, which is quite long for most of our other programs that we put together. But it's to help to enlighten folks, and then hopefully they will move into going into the Anti-Black Racism course where they can dive deeper into their education. Sarah, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I wanted to say that from the very beginning, there's been a strong response, consistent response of a good amount of people arriving. There's never been the lull. And the conversation has been very active. People are very motivated in their effort to educate themselves. And the level of the conversation has continuously elevated. It's always been a very good quality, but making sure that we keep going steps further. So it's been really wonderful. We're not getting like pushback and these kind of comments as much. There's things that are learning comments, but it's been wonderful. And we made a point from the beginning that we wanted to make sure to connect it to the Baha'i core activities, beginning with the devotionals. So we were able to start a race unity, race healing devotional that we are doing every week, and that has been consistent. And both of these gatherings had gone from local to national and finally global, including New Zealand and South America and Finland. So it's been very wonderful to have these aspects a part of the conversation, and to also hear certain patterns that are not only in the American picture, but that there are similar patterns that are happening with racism, and trying to go beyond that, go pass through it and interrupt it in other places in the world. And we're hoping we're now set up to hopefully begin a race unity based that focus for reflections on the life of the spirit. Of course, the first study circle book for the Institute. So we're happy that that's happening.
I want to just add that you see a banner there in the corner of our poster. And this was made by some of the young children in our community, and they participated in the Black Lives Matter demonstrations that were happening here in the Tucson area. So we have young people also engaging. We've tried to connect some of our activities to the core activity, the Institute process. And, this has been things that we're constantly increasing what comes up under our umbrella. We hope folks will visit the TucsonBaha'i.com website, and that will tell you more about our current activities. Thank you all this morning.
Thank you all so much for sharing your accounts. And before we go to the content of this slide, I just wanted to really thank Dr. Gwen Eder-Lewis, who opened up the conversation and report about the anti-Black racism course, as she was the inspiration for its development, instrumental in doing developing the course, and now is one of the main instructors. So what's covered in the course? We have, from a Baha'i perspective, we explore the construction of race, colonialism and slavery, stereotypes and cultural appropriation, prison industrial complex and Black Lives Matter, segregation, gentrification, environmental racism, and reparations, racism and technology for the university level course, Black women in the US, civil rights movement, constructive resilience, and community building. And all of this in light of the work that we're really doing in our communities, right? How do we apply all this? What are we gonna do in our own backyards? So two individuals who applied the course to their reality are Carol and Sohail Mansour. I would like to invite them to please share the account of what they did with the course. Carol and Sohail.
We took the course when it was called Racism in America, in its first iteration. And we live in a cluster that is predominantly Persian. And we had finished a study of the advent of divine justice when it became apparent that as we led up to the bicentenary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, that our cluster wasn't really prepared to have elevated discussions about race. And as we wrapped up the discussion of the advent of divine justice, the course on racism in America became available. So we took that course, and it was like sipping from a fire hose, but there was so much information that we decided that it had to be shared with our cluster. So
At the time, I'd been part of a Persian Baha'i group aimed at educating Persian Baha'is on race, as the level of education in that community was definitely not where it needed to be. So we started working with Persians on having classes for them. And after we took the class, we really liked the idea of having a video that was presented in the class, a 6-minute video that was produced by Equal Justice Initiative. Thank you. And so, our group, along with a technical individual, tackled dubbing the video. And after we dubbed the video into Farsi, we sent a copy to Equal Justice Initiative and asking for their permission. And they gave us permission. So we started using that also as a part of our course, as well as we put that video on YouTube, where it has been accessible to many Persian across the country. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. You know, I think one of the special things about having a course that combines the material and spiritual aspects of social change is that once you have that lens, you know, of seeing issues of racial inequality and the need for race unity, then you just start operating in a different way. And we have accounts, you know, that people write in about the efforts that they've made. So in this last segment of working with the wider community, it really is so encouraging hearing from participants about, you know, maybe they have written editors of a book to ensure that there's diversity of authorship, you know, on a topic that, you know, would warrant that. And well, it all warrants it, but to have, you know, people to take the initiative to call people in and have those long and hard discussions, and to continue week after week with the groups and the different efforts that they are engaged in. So with that, I'd like to invite Nikki to do the next slide. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so Colette Harrison, Dr. Colette Harrison, took her first Wilmette Institute course early this year, early in 2020, and she wrote a wonderful paper at the end of her course. The course she took was was a course on the Kitabi Aqdas, which, for those who may not know, is also called the Most Holy Book. It's one of the books or tablets from Baha'u'llah, which gives us our laws, our Baha'i laws. And the interesting thing about Colette is that she was already very involved in interfaith dialogue. She is currently, I think, vice president of the Interfaith Forum of Greater Dayton. She's been with them for a while. And so in doing this course, it gave her, as she says herself in her own words, a newfound perspective. And she's beginning to have a better understanding of how the Kitabi Aqdas can serve to bring about the framework for a global society to emerge. So she has been doing a lot. At the beginning of the year, as you know, COVID came along, so their library discussion group has not been able to continue face-to-face, but they did organize the Race Amity Day event. She said it was very gratifying. She made opening and closing remarks, mentioning messages from both our National Spiritual Assembly of the United States and the Universal House of Justice. She invited individuals representing different aspects of our community to talk about what race amity means to them And she says there were over 45 people who signed on to that Zoom meeting, and they had a lively and productive interchange. So Colette is continuing to go doing the work that she's been doing for these many years. I know that in February, she was instrumental in an interfaith dialogue called Racial Harmony and Social Justice at a Mosque in Dayton. And she's been also someone very active with the One Human Family group. I didn't even know all of this. I know One Human Family from when I was in the choir in Atlanta, and Colette also has been singing with that choir and really doing so much with her energies. And I just wanted to show you now, here is a proclamation that has been signed and resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Montgomery County, Ohio, hereby proclaim the 14th of June, 2020 as Race Amity Day. So after their Race Amity gathering, they all went and joined with the, is it NCRA, National Center for Race Amity program that they had. Many of you may also have been there. If you weren't there, please look out for it. We will put the National Center for Race Amity website also in the chat so that you can see, you know, the things that have been going on and keep in touch with those things. So, and Colette, thank you. Thank you for all that you did. And this was her first course. We hope that she will do more courses with us. All right. So I'm going to invite Rob to come on now and talk about courses for university. Rob?
You're muted, Rob. Unmute. Thanks.
Sorry, I forgot. The Wilmette Institute has been doing various things, of course, to reach out to young adults, both in the university population and not. And we're particularly focused now on trying to establish partnerships with other institutions of higher education so that we can offer courses that they would, for example, give people credit for taking from us. So we've been working on that. We're working, of course, on developing a wider range of webinars and web talks for academic audiences. We're actually pursuing accreditation now through the Distance Education Accrediting Commission. We don't know whether that will be possible. We have to wait and see whether DEAC will accredit us to offer courses for credit. That will make it much easier for Baha'is and their friends, if they want to take our courses that are designed for college credit, to be able to then transfer the credit back to their universities. And we're very hopeful that we'll be able to do that. We're also pursuing various relationships. We, of course, have an articulation agreement with the United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities. It's located in St. Paul, Minnesota, and people can go there getting a master's degree in religious studies and take some Wilmette Institute courses to get credit through United Theological Seminary. We're also working on an affiliation agreement with another West Coast consortium of religious studies schools, and we should hear by October about that. So we have really quite a lot of efforts that are taking shape, and I think we will, in the next year or so, have a lot of good news that we'll be able to report to people about the possibilities of taking Wilmette Institute courses for credit.
Thank you, Rob. So next, I just want to say a word about the course Foundations for Relationships for 18 to 30-year-olds. Many of you attending this webinar may realize that we've had a number of extra webinars. We used to do webinars like a couple every month, usually on a Sunday afternoon, just like today at 2 o'clock Eastern. But we also had a lot of other webinars. Due to the COVID, we decided we wanted to do something special. And that's when the series with Rainn Wilson started. That's when we had a number of webinars. Christine Mueller did some about climate change and the impacts of climate change and the causes. It was very, very informative and inspiring. And other faculty also stepped up. Now, the faculty of the Marriage and Family Department decided that they wanted to try to reach out to younger people, because normally the couples and the singles who take their courses are older Baha'is. So they reached out, they had a focus group session with some young people, and they came up with this course called Foundations for Relationships. It has been run twice this year, once in March through May, once in June through July, each time with about 50 youth from different countries as well. There were a lot of youth from Australia. And they're running it again in this September. So if you know anyone who is a young person, 18 to 30 years old, you can click through when you get to the PDF and go register for this course, which is starting September 28th. Next, I wanted to introduce, next, I just wanted to say, please visit our website. We have more good webinars coming up. Derek Smith is doing a webinar on the Prison Industrial Complex on the 30th of August. And also visit the articles and videos tab. We have a lot of students' work displayed there. So that's another place you should go and visit. And now I want to introduce Jessica Lani Kamal Kerr. Could she come on, please?
I'm here.
Jessica is faculty for our Transformative Leadership for Youth courses. She will tell you more about that, but she has developed some new courses for us. These are for 11 to 17-year-olds, and we've really learned a lot about reaching out to this younger community, and we've really been blown away. You'll be seeing a video which will be introduced at the end of this webinar that the youth did. So I'll just hand over now to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Nikki. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. So the Transformative Leadership for Youth program, we've been doing several sessions. We've done a part 1 and a part 2. We've done it twice. And so we've had about 150 youth, 11 to 17, go through this program. In essence, it is based on a framework for social action and discourse in society that nurtures a culture of cooperation through consultation, fosters creativity, and is founded on ethical principles and scientific evidence. We become agents of transformation who are part of the solution, consciously contributing to positive change as we engage in informative and transformative learning. This shared model of leadership promotes personal and social transformation, which is motivated by love for humanity, the search for truth, and our innate attraction to beauty and thirst for knowledge. The framework itself, it is the purpose of leadership. It promotes the personal and social transformation, and it includes 6 elements and 18 capabilities. And we translate this through photography and multimedia art, which at the same time cultivates our personal, interpersonal, and social transformation. And so I wanted to share with you guys that we have 2 of our graduates from Transformative Leadership 1 and 2, Olivia and Oliver, and they have graduated with excellence, and they have both inspired me personally to be the change and have exemplified great insight and dedication to their process of personal transformation and contribution to the well-being of community. So first, I'd like to introduce Olivia Bell.
Hello. So for me, the Transformative Leadership course for youth has really inspired me to just take action in a different way than I thought of when maybe I was prior to taking the Transformative Leadership course, because it allowed me to have that constant encouragement for weeks at a time of being like, no, you can do this, you can do something. And I may not be able to list every single quality or capability, but now they're like in the back of my head. So when I take the time to reflect and I've implemented things that we've learned into my day-to-day routine, I've noticed that I'm now trying to compliment people more for the attributes that I really admire about them, because I feel like I would feel very nice if someone told me what I'm doing correctly and so I can continue on to doing it. But also looking at the world in a new perspective and understanding that my eyes are not going to see it through your eyes, but it doesn't mean we can't have a creative group that works together and have invisible leadership, and not my leadership being me having you in a shadow, but my leadership letting you be in the light as well. And so I felt like the Transformative Leadership course was super beneficial in multiple ways and gave students really big opportunities, and like when you'll see the Give Light video, to just express themselves in ways that school may not tell you to. And I want to hear what Oliver has to say. So would you please?
Yeah, hello everyone. For me, I think this transformative leadership course was a really amazing framework into which to learn and participate in and contribute to social action. And I think currently so many youth really have a burning desire for change, and on social media, like there's so much, people are so bombarded by news of the injustices and so many problems in their world, and we are all like, we have a deep desire for some kind of framework and some principles to navigate this world which we're in. And I think many people can start to feel powerless to contribute. So I think the transformative leadership course and framework really offered a pathway out of kind of the darkness into the light, I guess. And I think the idea of transformative leadership, and I guess our views of leadership and governance at the moment are so consumed with this culture of competition and adversarial competition, and this idea of unity and cooperation in governments and in businesses is really lacking. So this idea that this fundamental principle that service-oriented leadership is the way to go, and that is that all of our leadership efforts should be oriented towards the service of humanity in our communities. That was a real paradigm shift, I think, in the way I saw things, and I think in the way humanity sees leadership currently. And I think this course had a real logical framework to draw from, and which incorporated insights from science and religion. And I think, especially now we're all at home due to coronavirus, I think now is the time to really be empowered with knowledge and the essential knowledge and fundamental principles that we need to enact social action, because then once we're allowed out, then we've got all of the vision and the lens in which to see things, and we can just go forward and contribute to service to our communities. And I think finally, the benefit of these online courses is that we really had a space for a global dialogue, because we could talk to many youth from different parts of the world and hear their insights and experiences, which was really beneficial and inspiring to hear from them.
Thank you so much. Olivia, will you say a quick word about the video before I go to it?
Sure. So the Give Light video is one of the things that Transformative Leadership allows. Is we get to have mentors who are people in different careers, and this was the music career. And so we created a song all by ourselves, and the youth put together all of these amazing instruments over Zoom and just sending in recordings, and we had it put together. And then we took not every single project, because there were so many, but we took majority of the projects and artworks and just photos people took during the course and put them into this video and compiled it to show everyone from a global standpoint contributing to one source to showcase the unity.
To our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love to our hearts. Give light to our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love
Wow. I think it's time for Q&A. Rob, you're still on mute.
Myself.
Sir, you can unmute.
No, I
Yes.
thought I'd unmuted myself. People are saying, wow, beautiful, brave youth. Some really marvelous responses to that particular video. And I'm sure people will want the link. So you're going to put the link up somewhere. Let me see, what else do we have here? I've got to go to the top of all these chats because there's quite a few of them. Let's see, where's the first one? People are saying so grateful. But I'm not controlling my cursor very well to see what's going on.
I think, Rob, there was, if it's okay, I saw a question from a while ago where someone was asking if Carol and Sohail Mansour can share some like resources to work with the Persian Friends. So while you're looking through the rest, maybe they can go ahead and address that. Yeah? I see Carol's here.
That was a really good question, and we actually talked about the fact that at some point they're going to need a repository for the things that they've done. So Hale said that what the biggest need was for translated passage guidance from the Universal House of Justice and the NSA and the Guardian, because the Guardian wrote to the American Believers about race. So a lot of what he wrote has not been translated into Farsi. So they've done some provisional translations of selected passages until they can get, authorized translations. They've also translated the transcript of the piece that Anderson Cooper did on CNN with the children choosing white dolls over black dolls to show how early racism is obvious to children. So at this point, the solution to how do you get these materials is you contact us. But if the Wilmette Institute or somebody else wants to serve as a repository, the more they do, the more will be made available.
Certainly.
I think you already got all of us saying yes at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's extremely important. And I hope we've shared the link to the Persian translation of the Equal Justice Initiative's history of slavery and racism in the United States, because that's something that I hope many, many more people get a chance to see. It's really marvelous to see the Persian translation being available of that 6-minute video. We have various other comments. I'm actually having trouble controlling my cursor enough in order to be able to get through them. But one person, where'd it go? Colette, who's I guess in the audience, says the One Human Family workshops will begin offering one of our other workshop programs, Real Talk, R-E-E-L, Real Talk, in September, open to all via Zoom, in which, now the problem I have is moving my cursor so that it doesn't shoot off the top of the screen or off the bottom of the screen, in which I move the cursor at all and I lose everything. I don't know where it went, sorry.
Are you in the, you're not in the Q&A, you're in the chat box?
I'm in the chat box, and I can't control my cursor well enough to get at the thing.
Maybe while that happens, we can do another question from the Q&A, because that's where I'm at right now. It's much easier to handle.
In which we'll watch a film and have a discussion of it and the implications for community building. So that's the rest of it there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So there was a question about whether the Wilmette Institute will have something about the pandemic, and I think that we can say from, the administrative team that we will certainly be considering that. But really one of the youth comment was so beautifully made about how a lot of what we're doing right now is preparing us, right? And of course, using online learning and so forth are ways to deal, right, with the pandemic and still engage in constructive, resilience and constructive engagement. There's a question from Jackie. What is the involvement of Baha'is and, well, their friends? Does it interact with people outside the Baha'i community? And I'm not sure, exactly who that was geared towards, but maybe just generally to all the panelists, engaging with the larger community, if you have any comments on that.
I'd like to add something in that area.
Go ahead, Janae.
Okay. I was just about to say that in terms of the activities that we've been involved in here, Michael mentioned, for example, last night how long our program went. What I have seen is that we have more and more people that are, quote, non-Baha'is or outside, community members, as well as some international folks all coming in. So we're seeing that people are getting enough out of it that they're bringing in their friends and others.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we did here in the Cincinnati area is that we created an Elsie Austin Teaching Institute where we designed programs and devotionals that target African Americans. And we've been meeting since March, and we had our first person to officially enroll in the faith just a couple of weeks ago. And this person also was living out of town and would drive 2 hours just to come to our 1 hour meetings. So that's one of the ways we're trying to reach out to the larger community.
Someone in the chat notes that tomorrow is the first day to register for the Race Amity Conference this November. And I don't know if there's a link that someone can put in the Q&A or the chat for us to pass on. Anne notes, film discussions are a great way to promote dialogue. I hope to develop a course on film appreciation. We hope to do that as well. Nikki has put in the Equal Just Initiative Persian version of the video, the link here in the chat box for people to see. One person here says, thank you for watering the seeds of the future Baha'i University with your efforts. What is your opinion of the pandemic? Where did the rest of that go? Sorry, once again, it jumped by way too much. Pandemic something. And I don't know if we have any real, anything to say about the pandemic. Pandemic pods? What's a pandemic pod? I guess that refers to small groups of people meeting for classes. And I don't think we have necessarily any particular opinion about that.
But I mean, if the panelists, does anybody from the panel want to address that question of how are we moving, during the pandemic with constructive engagement?
I have, with our Interfaith Climate Group and the Baha'is of Alachua County, Florida, we have a monthly devotional that was in a library live with very low attendance and now is online with better attendance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the question in the Q&A, it says about will there be a course on how communities can deal with the pandemic, like opening schools or not? And it made me think it would be interesting to have, it would be a good service to the community. I don't know, for the Baha'is to understand, the safety and the immunology and the, actually the background of, coronavirus and what's safe, so we can all be educated and make the right decision.
Going back to the question about reaching out to people outside of just the intermediate Baha'i community, I feel like a big thing about the pandemic is allowing us to do is we can be a lot more fearless about asking people questions because we don't have to be there in person, but we can be online and just be like, I am shooting my shot with this email to you or this text message to ask you to join this thing, because I feel like one, we should all have a lot more free time, unless you filled up your schedule of meetings, like probably most of us have had. Or you can just be like, I'm checking up on you, and I think you would appreciate this, because there's that connection people still want to make, so they may be more open to new ideas that they were not open to before, because they don't have that human, physical, emotion, like aura going around them at that direct level, but it's now going through a screen, so it takes much more effort. And I feel like just saying hello does a lot to people. Like, I've created a poetry club, and all I had to do was like, do you like poetry or not? And if they said no, then they didn't. And if they did, they did, and they could come to the poetry club.
I'd like to just also say something. It's that I've just been looking out, and it's amazing what you can find that's going on locally. I found 2 or 3 things that were going on, you know, completely outside of the Baha'i community, but people who were, you know, talking about the race issue. There's a group in Charleston that has a forum every year, and they had this whole survey thing, and I had no idea about it until I saw it on Facebook that they were doing a webinar, and it was free, and I attended. So there's a lot going out there. The interfaith things are flourishing. There are still groups that are doing book study on Zoom, because you really don't need to be face-to-face to do the book study. We can do it as a group in my area that did a study of Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, and we're hopefully moving on to do Stamped by Ibram Kendi. So.
Yeah, someone has posted the link to register for the Race Amity Conference in the chat. And Ethel asks whether the video for the youth will be made available. She asks whether the slides can be made slower so people can watch it and identify their friends, but I don't think that's going to be possible. I think you'd have to slow it down yourself. One person comments how pandemic has made our neighborhood into a global one. And so more and more links are going up. What else do we have on the Q&A? Anything else over there?
Jackie has a question about the next anti-Black racism course. We did have a waiting list, as was mentioned, of over 100 people. Those people will be contacted this week and invited to register, and they'll be given a couple of weeks to register. And if it doesn't fill up, then we will open it up, but it probably will fill up. So.
Seeing what else there is. That looks like everything that I can see right offhand about in the chat. What about in the Q&A?
Anne's comment, Anne Grove, did we cover that? Assistance for propagation and protection.
I couldn't read it all at once, unfortunately. What does it say?
It says the Assistance for Propagation and Protection, aka Spiritual Healing, are meeting on Tuesday to look at how we can incorporate concepts of Ruhi and weave them into our vibrant communities. Comments?
So maybe to add on to that is, how do the panelists want to comment on how these courses are incorporated into the main core activities of the Baha'i community? And for those who are watching for the first time, those include children's classes and junior youth groups and devotional gatherings and study circles, which build capacity to do more service. How are these courses relating to that work? Christine.
In the new Ruhi book 13.1, that's on social action. And that's where this topic is really discussed, how all the themes in previous classes can be applied in our community lives and put in practice in society. And of course, for the Wilmette Institute courses that are in the area of social transformation, that has always been our intention, and that is usually the first step of action for the participants, is to apply it within their Baha'i community, be it in devotional gatherings, in study classes, And the way they hold, like they celebrate holidays, like be more conscientious to be environmentally responsible and things like that.
Thank you, Christine. There's another question from Wade, or a comment in the Q&A box. You want me to read it?
Yeah, read it.
Wade says, I'd like to put together at least a webinar and preferably a course / working group on dealing with the greater pandemic, meaning community decision-making processes. So maybe urban and city planning. Anyone want to help? And Wade has given his email address there.
It's interesting because the Wilmette Institute has not thought about how we could address practical issues of how people would deal with the pandemic, with children being at home and that kind of thing. And I don't know, perhaps we ought to do a brainstorming at some point and talk about whether there's a program that we can offer on that topic.
If nobody has anything else, I wanted to give a shout out to the person who did this beautiful quilt that's behind me, my backdrop. It's my favorite Zoom backdrop, and it was made by a Wilmette Institute student who did the 2015 body calendar course. And it took her 4 years and a lot of patience, but she did this beautiful quilt, entered it in the North Carolina quilting competition. If anyone knows North Carolina, that is the hub and the center of all quilting in the US, as far as I can see. And they have these beautiful shows where they show the quilts, and she got an honorable mention for this quilt. And it displays all of the Bahá'í months, the 19 Bahá'í months, in interlocking hexagons in lovely colors, and it's really beautiful. You can find more on our website. I can find the link for that if you're interested.
Well, if we're finished, do we have anything else we want to explore? I think perhaps we've probably given a fairly comprehensive overview of the kinds of courses the Wilmette Institute has been offering, and some of the ways that those courses have been useful. And of course, the sort of behind all of that is the sort of pedagogical assumptions and theory that we've been trying to implement across all of our courses in different ways. Even the Kitabi Akdas course, as we saw, which you would normally not think is a course that would generate social action, can indeed generate social action as well. So I think I want to thank everyone for participating in this session today, and see everybody who can make it in 2 weeks when we turn to Derek Smith and the prison pipeline presentation. So thank you everyone for joining us. I appreciate all the volunteers and the faculty who've been able to join us, and we look forward to seeing you all back in courses and online in various places. So thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for your participation.
Bye.
Bye-bye.